On the news tonight, federal government evacuates more Nigerians from Sudan. JAMB releases 2023 UTME results. President Muhammadu Buhari holds meeting with delegation as preparation heightens for King Charles' coronation. A pleasant evening to you all out there. This is NTA Jabode News at 7, coming to you from your heritage station. Thanks for joining us. I am Olawumi Adeniji. Here are the details of our package. Nigeria government has evacuated additional 130 nationals from Port Sudan. The evacuees, which comprise 128 women and children, as well as 2 men, arrived in Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport, Abuja, Friday afternoon.
And 30 of them on board. 28 of them are men and 2 male among them. And here with me is the Minister of Humanitarian Disaster Management and Social Development, Dr. Sanigozo, who is give us details of those that just arrived now. Doctor, now how many of them are you just say 130? Exactly. Now when are expecting others to arrive?
Yes, like I said earlier, the flight that has just arrived is symbolic to us, very unique. It is the flight out of Port Sudan. So it's like a test in the ground, and we have already successfully brought in 130 persons. 2 of them are males and 128 are females and children. Now we are moving ahead with additional flights. We are also making requests to some of the countries along the route who would not allow a big-bodied aircraft to traverse their airspace. So that is why we are using the one that has a capacity of 130. As soon as we get that approval, we are going to deploy a plane that in one go can take 500. We have them on the waiting, but we do not have the clearance to carry a big-bodied aircraft. So for now, we are bringing this team and we are moving them to their homes. And like we made arrangements for the first batch, every one of them will receive what we call the survival kit, which has been prepared. We also have food for them, water to take. We have accommodation for them, and Dangote Foundation has given each of them 100,000 naira. And also, MTN has given them, will give them credits, airtime of 25,000 and data of 1.5 gigabytes in their lines. So the Nigerian community, everybody is supportive. We look forward to more support for the process, and we want to specifically thank Air Peace and the management and the CEO for the kind gesture of opening up to give us a free air lifting, and also the Air Peace will be further engaged to do a commercial link. Like we've been contacted, so in addition to the free one they have given us, we're also going to engage them to give us a commercial aspect of it. The same thing with 2 other airlines, so that we can get 3 other airlines, so that we can get everybody out in a very short while.
Okay, so we are told at the port of Sudan, we have the sick, we have even a pregnant woman among them. So how are you managing the sick ones, the old, and the women, the pregnant women?
The good news is that one of the pregnant women has delivered in the hospital. We paid the bills and we spoke with them. She's doing very well. The baby is doing well. We also have a sick person who had a glass injury in the hand, cut in the hand. That one has gone to the theater. He was operated. We have paid the bills, and he's back home and very healthy and happy. He's now at the hospital. We had one that had severe malaria, and she has been treated. So.
Meanwhile, the ongoing armed conflict in Sudan has made it difficult for patients to access medical facilities, putting the country's health system on the brink of collapse. Let's hear more from Adebola Bruslin Sunday.
Says domestic hospitals are now working at less than 20% of their capacity after 3 weeks since fighting erupted between the army and the paramilitary group Rapid Support Forces. Of chronic kidney disease are facing over challenges such as electricity outages.
What the doctor said here? I'm lucky that I have a car at least to come to the centre. We're in a catastrophic situation and we don't know what will happen tomorrow. Most of the patients here are very exhausted and I can't bear this situation anymore.
Another health threat is critical of basic goods, including water, food, and fuel, arising from the conflict which have killed more than 500 people.
I live in Hober and I go to the centre in Darshab about 30 kilometres away every day. The rapid support forces stop me every day at checkpoints, and last time they accused my son of being part of the military. We are ordinary people and all we want is to live and get health care.
The World Health Organization describes the situation as catastrophic and warns of their consequences if the clashes persist. Country Director of CARE International in Sudan, David McDonald, said support is needed to address short and long-term humanitarian crises.
We need to be ensuring that we've got safe access to communities for humanitarian assistance, and we need to make sure that we've got corridors and financial means to be delivering that assistance to some of the most vulnerable populations in the world at this time.
United Nations said more than 100,000 refugees have crossed from Sudan to neighboring countries to escape fierce fighting, while hundreds of thousands have been displaced within the country. Adebola Brooksland Sunday, NTA News.
Anyway, from Sudan. Preparation for the coronation of King Charles III and in and around the Buckingham Palace and in the UK is in top gear, but unlike his mother's mode of ascension, so many changes have been made, and this, among other things, include the crown and deployment of gas and security. Charles Haffer completes the report.
London is wearing a new look ahead of King Charles III coronation on Saturday. About 400 Commonwealth nations representatives are in the UK rehearsing for the coronation ceremony. More than 29,000 police officers will take part in one of UK's most significant security operations for the coronation of King Charles III, while people are already preparing their space for the event.
You know, in my lifetime, how many times am I going to see a king being crowned? Trying to brighten the mood and trying to do my part.
To meet and work with the other Commonwealth nations. All the troops have had fantastic times. We've been swapping patches and coins and collecting memorabilia from each other. So everybody's been loving the opportunity to integrate.
The relationship between Kenya and the United Kingdom has been so nice, and so is the coronation of the king. At this time, it is quite okay for us as Kenyans, and it has that significance in it.
This ceremony will undergo some alterations to represent multiple faiths, cultures, and communities across the United Kingdom. Britain's 17th century St. Edward's crown, the centerpiece of the crown jewel, has been removed from display to be altered for the coronation of King Charles III. The solid gold crown, encrusted with rubies, amethysts, sapphires, garnets, topazes, and tourmalines, will undergo modification work for Charles III's coronation at Westminster Abbey. 2,000 diamonds. The original had been melted down by parliamentarians after the execution. Charles III will only wear it at the moment he is crowned. The more modern imperial state crown, but compared with previous coronations, King Charles III's coronation will be shorter than his mother's coronation in 1953. The ceremony will begin with the anointing of Charles, symbolizing his spiritual entry into kingship, and then his crowning and enthronement, representing his assumption of temporal powers and responsibilities. Camilla will be crowned in a shorter and simpler ceremony. The royal family will travel to Buckingham Palace afterward in a state procession and appear on the balcony to celebrate the occasion. This will be the first coronation of a British monarch in the 21st century and the 40th to be held at Westminster Abbey since 1066. Charles Alpha, NTA News.
And in the meantime, all is now set for the coronation of Charles III, his wife Camilla, as the King and Queen Consort of the United Kingdom on Saturday. President Muhammadu Buhari, who is already in London for the historic ceremony, has held a strategic meeting with key members of his delegation. State House correspondent Adamu Sambu has more.
London, the British capital, is wearing a new look as millions of people across the United Kingdom and beyond prepare for the symbolic coronation ceremony of the 40th reigning monarch since 1066. President Muhammadu Buhari will go down in history as the first Nigerian leader since independence to ever witness the coronation of the King and Queen Consort of the United Kingdom. This meeting was therefore convened by the President to strategize on ways and means of achieving a successful outing by Nigeria as an important member of the Commonwealth of Nations.
I think it's another feather to President Muhammadu Buhari's cap. He's a man of destiny. I'm not too sure that in modern Nigerian history, any president has actually witnessed a coronation. So I think it's a pride for Nigeria, a pride for all of us that we have been invited to witness this coronation.
And then, also the relationship between our two countries at the bilateral level has really been strengthened under Mr. President's mandate. And as he's also leaving in 3 weeks, it's also important for him to be here. And it's a good signal that, Nigeria-UK relationships, even after Mr. President, should continue to wax in the way it has been.
It's historical that we're all witnesses to this very important and auspicious occasion. For most Nigerians, Queen Elizabeth was the only monarch they knew. So it's a renewal of the bond of relationship between Nigeria and the United Kingdom.
Like our president said one time recently, if most Nigerians don't have a second home in Britain, they don't feel that they are accomplished. That's wealthy Nigerians. So Nigeria and Britain are that close. Trade relationship.
And back in Nigeria, the House of Representatives Committee on Public Accounts has invited the Chairman, Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, the Director General, Department of State Services, and the Head of Civil Service of the Federation over issues surrounding the appointment of the new Auditor General of the Federation. National Assembly correspondent Dayo Ogunshola has more.
The Director Audit, overseeing the Office of the Auditor General of the Federation, is before the House Committee on Public Accounts to speak to non-rendition of annual reports of 3 years before the National Assembly.
If you don't have the Auditor General's report, the actors who ran the ministry, some of them are retired. Some of them have even died. So how would you, of what value is the report?
Armed with one of the drafts for the years in question, the director says he does not have the power to sign such reports.
Because I'm Director of Audit Overseeing. But if I'm giving my acting letter as the Acting Auditor General for the Federation, I'll be able to sign and submit to you.
Other issue considered by the committee was the alleged fake security clearance reports trailing the appointment of a substantive Auditor General.
We did accreditation. After the accreditation, all those that had passed through the accreditation process were now sent to the security agencies for the screening.
That the chairman availed us all these security reports and other relative documents in tandem with what his presentation I so second.
So our ruling on that is that the DGSSS, EFCC, ICPC, they should come here and tender their report and tell us, Ditto Head of Service and SGF.
The committee is to reconvene next week. From the National Assembly, Dayo Ogunshola, NTA News.
The Minister of Power, Abubakar Aliyu, says electricity is substantially subsidized in Nigeria, with it being the cheapest among African countries. He stated this at the interactive session involving the Senate Committee on Power and Agencies under the ministry. Ignatius Nko reports.
It has been a routine for the Senate Committee on Power to intermittently engage officials of the Ministry of Power and agencies under its purview to brief it on the power sector. At this session, Minister of Power Abubakar Aliyu presented a comparative analysis of the cost of electricity in Nigeria and other African countries, which he described as one of the cheapest.
A little cost comparison of electricity in Nigeria and this West African sub-region. We have in Nigeria just 15 cents per unit, which compared to Burkina Faso is 27 cents. Senegal 28 compared to Nigeria 15. 25 in Mali, 25 in Benin, 23 cents in Niger, 42 cents in Guinea-Bissau. Nigeria only 15 cents.
The default in the payment of electricity tariff by many consumers came to the fore. This non-compliance with payment of electricity tariff as and when due led to the disconnection of electricity distribution companies in Kaduna and Kano State from the national grid.
Because electricity is a very sensitive item, and once that happens, people become very agitated. So it is important for you people to be proactive.
The discourse are complaining bitterly that government and governmental agencies are not paying their bills.
The committee was of the view that the best solution to this default in payment is to adopt the method of deductions from source, especially for government-owned establishments. Ignatius Nkwo, NTA News.
You're still watching the news from NTA Jebode. We'll be right back after these messages. Don't you go away.
Hey, Iskilu, báwo la ti fẹ́ sanwó ni? Farabalẹ̀. 1,000. We go wash play tire o. Farabalẹ̀ now.
Madam, èló lówó wa?
Brother, na 3,005.
Màá fún yín ní owó òpè káàdì Glo ẹlẹ́gbẹ̀rún 10,000.
Oh yeah.
Bring your phone.
Ha! 10,000.
1,000 naira credit. Now you turn to 10,000.
No. All of us don't know about Glo Berekete. Ní ìlọ́po mẹ́wàá nísìnyí.
Ṣé o ti gbọ́? Ìlọ́po mẹ́wàá ló máa gbà lórí iyekíye tó o bá rà sórí ohun ìpè Glo Berekete 10 times rẹ.
I told you. Now what go tell?
You're welcome, Banga. Thanks for rejoining us. The UK court has sentenced the former Deputy Senate President Ike Ekweremadu to 9 years 8 months imprisonment. Ekweremadu, his wife, and a medical doctor was jailed for their involvement in organ harvesting. Dele Atunbi has more.
Ekweremadu, his wife Beatrice, and a medical doctor Obina Obeta were convicted for organ harvesting. The convicts were found culpable by the London's Old Bailey Criminal Court of conspiring to traffic the young street trader into Britain for his body parts. In Great Britain, it is legal to donate a kidney, but it becomes criminal if money or another material advantage is rewarded. Ike Ekweremadu, his wife, and Obina Obeta were arrested on June 23, 2022, following a complaint from the Lagos street boy brought into London to donate one of his organs to Sonia, the daughter of the Ekweremadus. The convicts were arraigned under the UK's 2015 Modern Slavery Act. Having been found guilty under the Act, the presiding judge, Justice Jeremy Johnson, sentenced Ike Ekweremadu to 9 years and 8 months. His wife, Beatrice, was sentenced to 4 years and 6 months imprisonment, while Obeta received a 10-year prison term. Justice Johnson told defendants, in each of your cases, the offense you committed is serious, that neither a fine nor a community sentence can be justified. The case marked the first time defendants have been convicted under the Modern Slavery Act of an organ harvesting conspiracy. In Abuja, Dele Atunbi, NTA News.
The Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board, JAMB, has released results for its 2023 Unified Tertiary Matriculation Examination, in which more than 1.5 million candidates registered and sat for the examination from across the country. Olanyinka Ojo completes the report.
During the mock examinations, the exercise had few hitches at some centers, and that prompted JAMB to reschedule the examination for centers that had glitches. The hitches experienced during the mock examination was attributed to the deployment of innovations.
For those things we wanted to test, we have seen what they were, and we went back and made sure everything worked, and it's working. So we will still be now focused on issues related to cable that you call network in the centers. There may be few centers that will have one problem or the other, but we are going to get over that. Now, for example, we have decided that all those with zero TIN clients will have to change if they must continue to be on our network.
Having dotted the lines and crossed the T's, the time then came to fully put these innovations by JAMB from biometrics to the examination proper to tests.
No problem, no worries at all. I finished successfully. The computer did not go off again.
A visit to some CBT centers in Abuja, where candidates have 2 hours to convince the examiner that they actually understood what they were taught in schools, shows a hitch-free exercise as attested by Obinna Amako, a potential business administration student.
The only difference that the mock examination, we didn't start on time, but the main examination was there on time. And there were no hitches.
The examination was okay and I finished before time, cross-checked my work and submitted.
Even though at most of the centers across the nation, the conduct of the exercise was seamless, some other centers had hitches as candidates could not sit for the examination.
For every candidate that have registered for this examination, he or she will certainly be given the opportunity to take this examination. On the first day, there were some candidates that were not able to sit the examination because of some technical issues, and we have rescheduled those candidates.
Another peculiarity to the examination is absenteeism and late coming by some candidates at some centers.
The high level of absenteeism, for instance, in a center where you're having 200 candidates, you're having as high as 22 absenteeism. I really don't know what is causing it.
Before now, the examination for special candidates was only restricted to the visually impaired. But this year's exercise captured candidates with special needs, such as those with Down syndrome and albinism. A total of 708 computer-based test centers participated at this year's UTME examination. Olanyinka Ojo, NTA News.
Guests on Good Morning Nigeria have called for legislations to regulate religious teachings that promote extreme and radical views. They believe it has become necessary to checkmate radical teachings which sometimes metamorphose into negative vices in this society. Daniel Aderiji has more.
The guests emphasized that while the Constitution provides for freedom of association, there is a trend of religious entrepreneurship which they note arises from poverty and using it as a weapon to mislead.
Government too has to be blamed. It's poverty. Most of these people, when we are, before we get to this level, where our poverty level is being managed well, I don't think we have this kind of proliferation. And if you go to most developed countries, that's right, you won't see this kind of thing because poverty on the two sides, on the audience who are following those people, and most people who are doing the work of these religious entrepreneurs too, I think they are just business people who are looking for the shortest way of making life.
They also urged Nigerians to identify quacks amongst religious leaders and refrain from adhering to their negative teachings.
Yes, we are men of God, we should be respected, the church must be respected, the mosque must be respected, but even our own Bible says those in authority, that is the government, we are no longer under a theocratic system of government whereby we say God speaks. We are now under democratic man government, and government has to come in, set the rules, all of us will have to be brought into it, agree with that rules. Then proliferation of churches is there, but it has to be guided.
Over 90% of some of the things that we pray for in this country as a result of bad governance. They are looking for salvation, they are looking for freedom, unconsciously, unknowingly, before you know, they enter into bondage. And some of this bondage, they are helpless about it because it's a thing of the faith. So once your spirit man is caged in a particular place, it has to continue to operate within that circumference. So any other new thing to unbundle that spirit to a new level of freedom becomes a bit difficult. And I think that is why we need to strike a balance, and not to make it an all-comers affair.
While there is consensus for laws to regulate religious leaders, there is advocacy for internal regulatory mechanisms for religious bodies to checkmate those with negative teachings and tendencies. In Abuja, Daniel Aderiye, NT News.
The Chief of Defense Staff, General Lucky Irabor, says there are no gains in war, appealing to Nigerians within their spheres of influence to dissuade those who may want to take the course of violence in ventilating their anger. The Chief of Defense Staff stated this at a symposium and book presentation on countering banditry and police dynamics on the election security management system in Abuja. Francis Fong reports.
It is a security management symposium and the presentation of books on sustaining the gains of war against banditry and insurrection, convened by DIG Habila Joshak retired. And having fought terrorism and banditry for quite some time now, General Lucky Irabor believes the peace currently enjoyed in some parts of the country must be sustained.
In the very near future, there will be no sound of any gun. The guns will be silenced completely, and there will be peace across the country, wherein socio-economic activities will thrive beyond what we have currently.
Beyond the rhetoric of winning the war against insurgency and banditry, tasks ahead for the incoming administration were also highlighted.
Getting in the buy-in of as many Nigerians as possible in order to be able to drive your policies.
The two books on countering banditry and the Nigeria Police Force Dynamics on Election Security Management System were reviewed by the Vice Chancellor, Federal University, Lokoja, Professor Olayemi Akinwumi.
The book provides a comprehensive review of the police in election security management. It is recommended to the public, especially security forces, the electoral officers, and to all students in the field of electoral studies.
Having served in the Nigeria Police Force and rose to the rank of DIG in charge of operations, Habila Joshak highlights the dynamics of critical issues to be addressed on election security in a plural society.
But I was bringing in practical thing, what I saw, what I did, and we discovered that there's much more for us to ask our security agencies to do more than what we've done.
The twin books are expected to serve as a manual for security personnel to be professional in managing electoral assignment. Francis from NTA News.
And that concludes our package for this evening. Do have a good night rest and a pleasant weekend.
Indecent dressing. Indecent dressing is also known as immodest dressing. It is progressively becoming part of us and at the same time leading to the increase in the rates of immorality in our society. This art is also known as dress to kill.